Hello, welcome to week goodness knows what of online Sunday school, definitely well into the 20s now. We are in today, it's a cold, wet and disgusting day outside, but it's warm inside and we're all ready for our Sunday school, which today takes us back to the Old Testament and tells us the story of a little baby
Little baby
who became one of the founders of the Bible, a little baby called Moses. Now, this tale is told in Exodus. So, if you remember from a few months ago now, this is after Joseph and his dreams and how Joseph became a well-known man and ruled over Egypt as one of the king's governors. Joseph's whole family, all the tribes of Israel were in Egypt by now. This is a couple of hundred years later. And they've really prospered. They've all married, they've had lots of children, there are lots of Hebrews in Egypt now. And you would think that that would be seen as a good thing. But oh no, the old pharaohs died. We've got a new king in town. Come and show us a new king, Jess. And he is not too keen on the Hebrews. Are you, king? No, he thinks there are too many of them. And he is afraid. He thinks, hang about, all of these Hebrews around, there's a few too many for my liking. What if they rise up and decide to fight us and they decide to take over our land? Or what if they decide to all leave together? Then who will do our building projects for us? So he was a bit mean and he thought, let's just be mean to the Hebrews and see if we can squash the numbers down a bit. So first he sent henchmen like him.
Henchmen.
Yeah, leaders. He made the Hebrews forced labourers. So he said, right, go over them, make them work for me, give them very little or no wages, make them build stuff, make them do the dangerous, horrible, really hard labouring work. That will squash them down a bit. But did it work? No, it didn't work. God's plan was for the Hebrews to prosper, and prosper they did. So they still carried on growing their communities. Next, Pharaoh came up with something really horrible. He asked all the midwives, which are the people who delivered babies, to kill all of the Hebrew baby boys. He didn't mind the girls sticking around because girls weren't considered as being worth much because they couldn't fight.
Rude.
So, I know, old times.
So rude.
But he wanted all the baby boys killed by the midwives. But did the midwives do it, gang? No, the midwives feared God and they knew that God would not look kindly in them doing such a wicked thing. So they refused to do it and just told Pharaoh that they never got there quick enough to kill the babies. So that's when Pharaoh came up with his worst plan of all. He said that if people saw Hebrew baby boys, they were to throw them in the Nile. So he wasn't relying on the midwives, he'd rely on people like this guy, or just ordinary people, or commanded the Hebrews themselves that if they had a baby boy, they were to throw him in the Nile. Boo! Now at that time in Egypt, there was a lady who had a little baby boy that was born to her. Ah, let's have a look. Cute little face in there. And at first she could hide him. So for 3 months she hid him and nobody could find him. But babies get bigger. And as they get bigger, their cries get louder. And she knew it wouldn't be long before people realised she had a baby boy. And she knew that when people realised she had a son, they would come and they would kill him. Now she didn't want that to happen. So she hatched a cunning plan. She got a basket and put her baby in there. And then she took her baby to the Nile, the green, blood-bubbling waters of the Nile, complete with palm tree. She didn't go herself because married women weren't really allowed out in those days. So she got her daughter and sent her daughter down to put her baby into the waters of the Nile. Now the Nile is a big river. It stretches for 4,000 miles. It's wide. It can flow quite quickly in places. So it's no mean thing to put a baby in a river like that. But she didn't feel she had any other choice. So she put the baby into the Nile, and she asked her daughter to walk along and try and see what happened. Because remember, babies can't swim, so if he went over, that would be the end. Now, fortunately, you could call it coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. God-incidence. God made it so that one of the princesses of Egypt was walking by the Nile that day and she saw the baby in the basket. And the baby was taken out and given to the princess, and she took pity on it. It says in the Bible, she had pity for this baby. And she saw the baby's sister and said, you girl, go and find me a Hebrew woman to nurse this baby, so to feed this baby for me. And she can nurse it until the baby's old enough for me to take him as my son. So, clever old sister went off, got Moses' real mum, brought her back to the princess. Moses was reunited with his mum. His mum got to feed him and stayed on as a maid to the princess. And the princess adopted Moses as her own, and he grew up in the palace. Now, we are going to talk about what happened to Moses a bit more next week, because Moses did some terrible things later, but he did many great things as well. Moses led the Hebrews out of Egypt and into a land of their own that we now know as Israel. He was the one that God revealed the 10 Commandments to. He looked after people all the time. They were in the wilderness. So this baby became a very great man. But that's for us to discover next week. For now, I want us to think about what this story means for us. And in order to think what this story means, I think we need to think like Moses' mum, his birth mother. I think we need to think about what it would be like to have no other choice but to put your tiny little baby into a basket, send it down a river, and just hope for the best, for that to be your only choice. Now, to try and think, I know that lots of you are kids, so to try and think how you would feel when you're not a mum yourself, I would like you to think of something really dear to you. It might be a teddy, it might be a pet. Jessica, who is your baby?
Squeak.
Squeak. Just Squeak. Have you got another baby?
I've got 2. Or maybe Nibbles is my baby. So I got Frazzle and Squeak, and
Frazzle the
Nibbles.
hamster who met. This is Jess's baby, Squeak. Now, come with me. We're going to see how Jess is going to feel when I put her baby in a boat and send it down the river. Come on, Jess.
Come on, child.
Come on, cameraman. Pass the biscuit and the mess. Into the dark hole. Right. Can't turn our tap off, it's running. So Jess, I've got a choice of boats that we could put Squeak in. Which one of these would you be happy to Squeak in? Would you like him to have one with a rail? Or will he fit better on that one, do you think?
I think he'd fit better on that one. Though.
Right, pop him on then, let's see. You fit on there?
No. He's too big.
Too big?
Maybe the basket.
How about we put him in a basket, just like Moses did? You have it right. You happy? I'm just going to put him in the bath now. Is that okay?
No!
No? What? You don't want me to put Squeak here into the bath?
No!
Why not? Why can't I put him into the water?
Because he'll drown and he'll die.
Well, he might not. He might be lucky. He might,
The water won't get in the basket because it's like, I don't know what this is called, but like, there's holes in it.
Do you think it's unsafe, do you?
Unsafe, yeah.
So, if I gave you a £5, would you let me put him into the bath?
No.
Easy
How about
money.
if it's a tenner?
No.
What about if a fox came in here, and foxes don't like water, and the only way to save Squeak from the fox killing him was to pop him in the bath so that the fox wouldn't go in the bath after him? Then would you let me put him in the bath if you thought it was the only way to save his life? No other options, so it's the only way. He's either going to die or I can throw him into the bath.
Yeah, but he could die both ways.
He could, but he's definitely going to die if the fox comes, and he might not if I throw him in the
So I
bath.
guess the bath?
Yeah, the bath. And that's the only way you would let me put this dear little baby into some water on his own, isn't it? Come on, let's go back through to the kitchen. We would never put Squeak in the bath.
Or
We would
Nibbles,
never
or
put him in
Frazzle.
danger because we love him.
We'd probably put the fish like...
I mean,
in
I
water.
would. Easy money.
No, you wouldn't. And don't worry, Squeak's not been harmed in this. He's only been in his box about 10 minutes, and we gave him his favourite fruit. He's had some melon. So
Melon.
Squeak, yeah, there's a melon on the side. There's a melon and the hay in his little box. So he's only going to be in here for 10 minutes and he's quite happy. Should we put Squeak back in or are you going to hold him? Okay. So, the only way Jess would let me put her baby into the bath, which is a safe, you know, little bath. Squeak would probably be all right. I didn't run it very deep and he can scrabble around in it. Jess would only let me put her baby in that water if she absolutely had to. If it was a case when she was completely and utterly desperate. So you can imagine how desperate the mummy of Moses must have been in order to put her baby into a river. Not a bath, a long 4,000-mile river with animals and people and boats on it. Nothing but complete fear and desperation would have made her put that baby into that river. And she was really lucky. As I said before, the princess came along, Moses was taken out of the river, and he went on to do great things. And we need to discuss what that means for us. Now, Jess, do you think this kind of thing goes on these days? Do you think people chuck babies into...
No.
No, you don't? You don't think it does?
No.
Are you sure about that?
I'm very sure.
I would like to show you a photo, but something's gone wrong. Because I think this still does go on today. Because when I read this story today, and I've heard this story lots of times, but when I read this story today, for me, it brought back a picture that I saw on Facebook just a couple of weeks ago. This is a young child. This is a young refugee child who's got a life jacket on, but has been put into a boat that is crossing a dangerous sea to try to get to a safe place. This is a child whose parents don't think they have any other option but to put her in a dangerous, overcrowded boat and hope for the best. Hope that God will save her. And now we know that in these times people say, oh, the refugee crisis is terrible. Why doesn't God do something about it? Why doesn't God step in and do this stuff? But we know how God combats suffering in the world. God doesn't make the wars, people make the wars. People cause the problem and people have to be the answer. Moses only became great because somebody stepped in and helped fish him out of the water. And our Bible message today, when I read it, seemed very simple for me. We are in a time when there are refugees that need help. There are people in the water, and today's story reminds us that it is our job to fish them out and help them. Now, I don't know at what point some people think it's okay to leave people in the water. Lots of people, babies, oh yeah, that's fine. Children, yes, we'll accept children. Grown-ups, oh no, don't want to accept any grown-ups. At what age does it become acceptable to leave somebody in the water to die? Now, as Christians, we believe there is no age that it's acceptable to leave somebody in the water. We are called to love our neighbours as ourselves. We are called to love everybody on this planet, regardless of where they come from. So, today's Sunday School message for us is a clear act for you to do something this week to help those refugees that need us. Now, you might say, what can we do? We're just kids, or we're just grown-ups. We're just one person out of 7 billion. This stuff's all too hard. We rely on government. But no, there's lots you can do. So what can you do first? 1, should you see somebody in the street or at your school that is a refugee, your first thing is you can just smile. In fact, I would recommend smiling at everybody you see in the street, because there is nobody whose day is not brightened by a smile.
Smile.
Beautiful. So you can smile. You can change your language. You can stop calling people refugees and migrants. You can recognise that these are human refugees, people seeking refuge, people who need help. Make sure you remember that they're not migrants, they are people. You can volunteer your time I don't know where you're watching from. If you're in Chichester, Google Refugees Chichester. The sanctuary will probably come up. They are always looking for volunteers. You can come and help out. We meet at St Paul's Church, and you could come and you could decorate a house for somebody who is moving into a new home from overseas. You can help with language skills or benefit claims. You can come and organise an event or bake a cake. There's loads you can do. So kids could do volunteers as well. We don't mind where people come from. Inspired by this story, and because I've got a bit fat over lockdown, I have just signed up, I don't know why, to run 108 miles in September, over the course of September. Now, I'm now thinking that that is the equivalent of me running a marathon a week. I haven't run a marathon distance this entire year. In fact, I've run 32 miles so far this year in little stints of about, 1, 2, 3 miles, 4 maybe at the max. So I'm going to have to run 3 miles every day in September. I will put my link in the comments below. So if you would like to do something to raise money through the British Red Cross to help refugees, then please follow my link and donate. 50p will do, quid will do, I don't mind, but that would be great. The other thing we can all do that doesn't require any money or really any time is that we can pray. And that is what we're going to do now. So, Squeak, are you ready? Yeah? You can give us a squeak?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Squeak's ready. Jess, are you ready?
Yeah.
You can hear my little one there. We better pray before he comes in quick. So, dear Lord, we thank you for the shelter and for the food that you give us. We thank you that our lives are not in danger and that we don't feel fearful. We don't feel oppressed. We thank you that we live in a place of safety, and we thank you for the blessings that you give to us. We ask you to help us to remember always how lucky we are. We ask you to help us to share the blessings we have with others, to give time and volunteer. We ask you to be with all those who are in fear, worried about being hurt. We ask you to be with all migrants, all refugees, when they are exhausted and tired and feeling unloved and unwanted. Let them know that they are loved. Help us to love them the way that you love us. Send us out to do something great this week to help all those around us, whether from near or far away. And we ask this in the name of your Son, our Saviour, Jesus Christ. And all God's people said,
Amen.
Amen. So that's our Sunday school for this week. We're going to talk more about Moses next week. There are a whole load of activities you can do if you go onto the St Paul's page. I'll post the link, but you know where to go. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye guys.
Bye.
See you next week. Bye.